You mentioned classics just before, and I wrote that down. What are the classic books that you would recommend people read if they were to go ghost for a year and there was 4 or 5 books other than, of course, The Wealth Money Can't Buy that they were going to take with them?
Well, Plato said, a house with a library has a soul. And one of the chapters in the book is Babel, book accumulation beyond life expectancy.
Yeah, and you speak about how many books you've got that you'll never read.
Exactly, which is, I think, a good addiction. So classics, I love buying books and audiobooks. Classics, I've been evangelizing this one for 2 decades. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's becoming very popular now. There's when I've been in the valleys of darkness in my life, The Prophet, Prophet, as you know, by Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran. Incredibly wise book. The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein is an amazing book. I think Isaacson's biography on Steve Jobs is one of the all-time great biographies. Yeah, those would be some of the books that come to mind.
I think you wrote in this book, do you have a practice where you read and then you do journal in a notebook? Is that to help with retention?
Exactly. It's the 45-15 rule. So every evening I'll read for 45 minutes at least, and then spend 15 minutes deconstructing the information to make it sticky. So I think, it's great to read, but I think it can be a trap to read too much. It can be an escape mechanism. We're always learning, we're always reading, but we don't execute on it because we're afraid of failure.
Yeah, so it's a balance between learning and experience, or putting that information to practice in the real world.
Yeah, I'd rather be a minimalist than a maximalist. I'd rather master 3 books over the next 12 months and live them than, read 50 books and not get any traction on any one of them. So, and I think that's the thing, like shiny toy syndrome. We buy so many books or have so many friends, and I'd rather have 3 great friends. I'd rather master 3 great books. Even, I know a lot of entrepreneurs follow you. I think of one entrepreneur, every time I meet him, he has a new business that he's obsessed with. And I think if you look at the best entrepreneurs, they're monomaniacally focused on one business long after the inspiration has left them, and they do it for year after year after year until their vision becomes a reality.
Yeah, you say they go deep, not wide.
Yeah, exactly. Just go have a few friendships, but go deep. Read a few books, but go deep.
Yeah. I find writing down, taking notes after reading helps with retention, and also trying to explain what I've learned to someone else and having conversation can be really helpful. You mentioned, and I have to ask you because I guess you kind of promised it in the book. You said, if I'd meet you someday, I might tell you the story about how I lost 10 years of journals.
So yeah, that's funny. You're right. I'll just to protect the unpresent, I'll share the story. So Simon, a number of years ago, over 10 years of my personal journals, that would be my journals, not only where I write about my dreams and my hopes and things I'm learning. Often what I'll do is if I go to a restaurant in a foreign city, the next morning I'll glue, I travel with a little glue stick, and I'll glue in the business card of the restaurant and write about it. I'd written about all my experiences, but also in those journals, I'd written about my struggles, my pain, insecurities, my written prayers, very personal. And long story short, over 10 years of my journals suddenly vanished. So, because a lot of people say to me, Robin, I'd love to write a journal, and I'm a huge believer in the tactical power and the healing power of journaling. Even for any elite performer, journaling, and we can get into some of the tactics, but it's such a powerful tool. What you write about builds commitment. You want to get things done, write about getting things done. But a lot of people who journal say to me, Robin, here's what they say, Robin, what if someone reads my journals? And what I would say, what I learned from that experience is, if anyone reads my journals, they're going to see a human being on the path. They're going to see someone who's flawed, who has insecurities, who has strengths, who has dreams, who has hopes, who's living a life. What's to be worried about? And if they want to judge me, that doesn't really have anything to do with me.
It just means that they're not aware of their own flaws and things they need to work on at that stage.
And I think that also perhaps brings up the idea of getting comfortable with death.
Your Last Supper.
Yeah, the Last Supper chapter in The Wealth Money Can't Buy, right? Like, have your last supper now. And that comes from an experience. One of my close friends is a DJ, so my partner Al and he and his partner, we had this long meal in Rome, and we got on this topic of, if it was a dinner question, if this was our last meal, what would we order? And the point really is, I think human beings have an ambient, constant fear of death. It's in the background. And because it's ambient and invisible, subconscious, we don't know about it, but it causes us not to play full on, to be worried about what people think, to be concerned about rejection. What a huge fear, rejection. But once we realize that our time is short, even if we live a long life, we will be dust, and we become comfortable with death, and we make peace with death, and we're not frightened with death, then if someone takes your journals, or someone laughs at your business idea, or someone tries to bring you down or whatever, you don't really care, because you are intimate with the shortness of life. And I think if you can be intimate with the shortness of life, then you're going to live to the point and live a really good life.
Is that how someone gets over the fear of rejection? Or what ways could someone overcome fear of rejection? And how would fear of rejection be holding someone back?
Well, how can you overcome a fear of rejection? You do the thing that causes you to rejection until you keep doing it and you don't feel rejection. You don't worry about it anymore. So, how do you become more powerful? You do the things that are taking your power away. How do you become a great public speaker? You give a lot of speeches.
So it comes back to being okay with being uncomfortable.
Be okay, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Hard is easy. Consistently put yourself in difficult situations, and of course you're going to grow. Spartan warriors, they would do difficult things to develop bravery. So that's one way to beat this fear of rejection. Secondly, I get back to MVP, meditation, visualization, and prayer. They work. People often say, what are the tactics? How can I build a strong interior core? Meditate, visualize yourself being strong and brave and doing difficult things, and pray for them. Even if it's journaling, prayer on paper. It's another tactic. So those would be two of the ways. And then for me, reading is having a conversation with the author. And when you have conversations with people, you're influenced by them and they shape you. So reading books of heroism, reading about Onassis, reading about Mandela, reading about the great women and men of the world, reading deeply from those rich autobiographies of our heroes. They make us stronger.
Right. That brings us back to, was it the Dead Board of Directors?
Yes.
This idea, at least what I took from it, that often it can be expensive to go out and get advice from people who are living to sit on your board of directors and advise you on your business, but there's a whole lot of resources out there from people who have gone over the years but have left very valuable information for us.
Absolutely. And I want to acknowledge you for your preparation. It might seem common, but it's not so common to see people who are in your space as a podcaster to be so well prepared.
Thank you. Well, I think that's just downstream of the way you wrote the book, to be honest. It really did. I said before, and I meant it, it grabbed all of my attention. And I just went from chapter to chapter. And again, themes that I'd read about before, but written in a more accessible way and memorable.
Oh, thank you. And so the chapter you mentioned is Recruit a Dead Board of Directors. I think that's in the chapter, the fifth form of wealth, which is money. And so I think it's really important to surround yourself with people whose lives you want to be living. And so if one of the forms of wealth is money, and there's nothing wrong with it, what I'm trying to say in the book is money is only one of the 8 forms of wealth, but I'm not saying money is not important and it's dirty and there's something wrong with it. You can do amazing things with financial freedom. And the chapter is Recruit a Dead Board of Directors, which is, you want to learn how to be a financial tycoon, read Frank Brady's book on Onassis. You want to learn how to be forgiving, read about Mother Teresa. If you want to read about being an athlete, read the books from the great athletes. So we often say, well, how do I do it? Or I'd love to have a mentor. Just go buy their books and recruit this dead board of directors to advise you and read their books, be influenced by their approach and their philosophy and their habits. And then maybe if you have a key choice, go into your quiet room, close your eyes, and ask this silent board of directors what their advice is. And imagine what Mandela would say and Mahatma Gandhi and whoever it might be.
It's clever. You mentioned journal tactics, and if we don't cover that, come back and cover it. There'll be people saying in the comments section you had Robin Sharma on and he mentioned journal tactics and you didn't dig in. What are the main journal tactics that you would want to leave someone with? How do you journal in a way that is going to be most productive, most influential in your life?
Well, I would say, first of all, do it every morning. What you do daily is so much more important than the few things you do annually.
Amen to that.
And that's one of the most key things I would humbly offer all of your viewers from around the world. Your days are your life in miniature. If you want to predict your future, look at what you're doing today. And for years, micro habits is getting very popular now, and that's wonderful. For years, I've been sharing a brain tattoo, which is small, daily, seemingly insignificant improvements when done consistently over time lead to stunning results. So it's those little things we do every day that are so innocuous, we might not do them. We wonder, will they make a difference? But you do them every day, and over time, they lead to a tsunami of results. And so I would say consistency is the mother of mastery. Write every day in a journal. Make it part of your morning routine. And so then what are the tactics? First of all, they're just free flow. Write about how you're feeling. If you're suffering from heartbreak, write about heartbreak. Pour your pain onto the written page and let the pain out of your system. It'll be very healing. If you're in a summer of your lifetime or on the top of the mountain, write about your victories. Write about what you're learning about. I did an exercise, and we've all heard of this, but I actually did it 2 days ago, I believe, and it was my funeral exercise. And it was, what do I want people to say? But it's good to do it once in a while. We've all heard about it, but it's good to actually do it, because as you write in a journal, you might go, oh, I know what I want people to say, or I know what my next 3 months should be. But writing it takes the fuzzy and vague thinking, and it forces you to find the words to bring clarity. And as you have more clarity, then your daily choices are more clear, and more clear decisions create greater results.